What is it that the blue cities of America does not want the FBI to know? Let's talk about that when we get back. And guess what, folks? There's a Blue City report coming. Now let's talk about this. It's amazing how all these things can go on, all the crimes in all these cities everywhere you go, and no matter what's happening here and there. But nobody wants to talk about it. FBI needs some stats. They need to know what's going on in these blue cities. But the blue cities have gone silent. You see, they're too busy talking about gun crimes and not people crimes. They don't want to talk about the increase of their murders. See, when you look at 2021, everything that occurred in 2021 stemmed from the summer of love for 2020. Think about that. All these things that were going on across this country, that was the foundation for failure for the blue cities. And the blue cities don't want you to know it. The politicians in charge of those cities don't want you to know it, because they're too busy sidestepping and backtracking, trying to tell you that they had nothing to do with it. But folks, the proof is in the pie. The proof is in the numbers. The stats will tell the story. And with the midterms coming, the blue cities can't afford to tell their story, because it's not a story. It's a nightmare. And this nightmare started where? In all your blue cities. That's the foundation for failure. They really took that and ran with it. No success there, folks, unless you want to count the elections that they pushed and some of the things they pulled to get that attention. But now that stuff is starting to backfire. They cannot sustain anything of any nature for anything to show you anything positive out of what they've been accomplished, what they have accomplished, what they've been trying to accomplish. And that's nothing. So I'm going to go over to CBS. Let's let CBS talk about it and let them explain to you what might be going on, and then we'll come back. And I may break it along the way and we'll have a little conversation. And let's try that. Let's see how that goes. Let's try that now.
2021 could be on pace to be America's deadliest year of gun violence in the last 2 decades. Yesterday, President Biden announced a new strategy to combat it. It includes a zero-tolerance policy for gun dealers who break federal law, deploying strike teams to cities to crack down on illegal gun trafficking, and encouraging communities to use federal pandemic relief funds for policing and crime prevention.
Wait a minute. What did she just say? We're going to use pandemic funds for crime prevention. Now, budgets being cut all across America. We're going to use the pandemic funds. And that's not what they were designed for. See, what happened is the Democrats, the blue cities, decided that they don't know how to fight this. And the only way they can take money is from somewhere else. See, this is a standard that's practiced. When you defund something or you redirect, as the campaign was coming out. Folks, when they use words like refund and redirect, defund, not refund, but defund and redirect. Think about that. That means we're going to take away. We're going to give it somewhere else. Somebody else is going to get it. The reality is this, that there is no plan in the blue cities. It's a take, 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 and they give nothing. And the only thing they're willing to give is something that they got from what? The pandemic relief. Now, that's kind of odd in itself, and I'm not even going to get into that process because, I mean, the writing's on the wall with all that kind of stuff. But folks, this is ridiculous. We've got blue cities out there, and crime is off the charts. Let's listen a little bit more about what they have to say.
Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, is in New York City with a look at the rise of violence that led to the new initiative. David, good morning.
Good morning. We wanted to know why, so we went to Princeton University to speak with a sociologist who studies crime for a living, and he believes there are 3 shocks that have contributed to the rise in crime. Number 1, the shutdown of core institutions during the pandemic. Second, a record number of gun sales. And third, protests during the pandemic and the aftermath of those protests. You'll hear from that sociologist in a moment, but this morning we're focusing on the specific number of murders that are on the rise.
Take Chicago last weekend. Police say during the Puerto Rican Day festivities, surveillance video captured Giovanni Arzuaga and Yasmin Perez being ambushed after a minor traffic accident. According to authorities, Yasmin was pulled from the car, beaten, and shot. When Giovanni tried to save her, he was gunned down almost execution style. Both of them were killed.
It's hard to believe that he's gone. A young guy is gone just because of an accident.
In New York City, 2 children narrowly avoided being shot as a gunman shot at a man on a busy city street. And in Austin, Texas this month, gunfire broke out early one morning in the city's nightlife district. 1 person was killed, 13 more were injured. Nearly 10,000 people have been killed this year alone from gun violence.
So let's talk about this. Crime, they want to associate gun violence. This is people violence, folks. This is people getting guns. The guns do not fire without people. I get tired of hearing gun violence, gun violence, gun violence. Does that mean, what about knife violence? What about car violence when somebody's driving while impaired? They don't talk about that. They talk about a specific crime. But now it's out in the streets, and it's putting our children in danger. Our children are in danger. You saw what was going on. It doesn't matter. You can't circumvent the system in a way that the blue cities have done that and then try and blame it on guns. You have to blame it on politicians. So politicians are our problems. Guns are not our problems. It's called the politician. We deal with the politicians. The guns will resolve itself because these people who are buying guns legally are buying guns because the crime rate is off the chart. You cannot hug your way to safety. You cannot talk your way to safety. You cannot talk your way out of somebody who wants to kill you and they don't care who you are, or somebody who wants to shoot your children or will put your child in harm's way because that's their way of life. See, to them, life is a video game. They have 9 lives, and they might get those 9 lives, but sooner or later, they'll be at the end of that game and they'll find out for a brief moment before they're taken out exactly what life is about when you live in that environment and you place yourself as a suspect, as a killer. Folks, you can't blame guns for this. You have to blame the blue cities, their political leadership. It's ridiculous. It's off the chart. You don't have to say much about it. We don't have to do anything other than but lead it back. They won't give why do you think they won't give the FBI the statistics? Because the crime statistics will be horrible. We know it. We don't even have to let the FBI release the information. We know what's going on in our blue cities. And folks, they're not going to report that. They don't want to report that because the midterms are coming up. The elections are coming up. They think if they hide the information until after the midterms, you'll have a couple years to get over it before the 2024 elections are coming up. Because you know what? The blue city politicians think you're stupid. Look at some of the places in North Carolina. Kinston, North Carolina. Look at the crime rate in Kinston, North Carolina. Do you think that they could start a process or something that could work on resolving their crime there? Absolutely, if they wanted to. There's plans down there. They can do what they want to do. But they have to step up. They have to want to provide protection for the hard-working, honest citizens. You see, citizens are getting tired. They're tired of being pushed around. They're tired of being beat up. They're tired of being killed. They're tired of being the victim. See, because our blue cities have turned our victims into suspects, criminals, and they've turned our criminals into victims. Think about that. Our criminals are now victims in the blue cities of America, and not one of them can deny it. Do you notice when everybody's talking about we shouldn't be defunding the police anymore? How about those ones that were yelling, defund the police, defund the police? And how about those who remained silent, who remained dormant, who didn't get up there and fight for law enforcement, who just stayed out of the way while they were burning cities down all across America, shooting and assaulting law enforcement officers? What about those blue cities, those politicians who sat back and had nothing to say, but now they want to jump up and say, oh no, I wasn't for that. I was never for that. Well, you know what? You didn't stand against it either. You sat back on the sidelines. And bottom line is, our cities, our blue cities across America, are a prodigy of the blue city failures. The politicians who were in charge, folks. They hated one man so much that they were willing to destroy their cities. And you know what? They were successful in that. They are what they began. They live an environment for what they started. And now it's like a poison. It's poison ivy. And they have to get it out of there. And they don't know how. So they blame the gun. They don't want to blame the politicians. So every time you hear somebody say it was a gun crime, I want you to know, I want you to say it was a politician crime. It was a political crime. It was a politician crime because they allowed this to happen. Don't be fooled. Don't be sidelined. Don't let them play the games on you because that's just what they'll do for you. Folks, it's a tough world out there. And like I always say and will continue to always say, you need to be real, be safe, and always, always be ready. Until we see you again, you be safe.
All my rules begin to howl. Wake me up, the time is now. Can you hear the drumming? There's a revolution coming. Wide awake, the fever burns. Sweat it out.